Okay. What we got?
Steve, were you surprised that Tony decided to test the NBA?
No, yeah, that's what players do. Student athletes do that a lot this time of the year. Gathering as much information as we can for him and supporting him. He's been terrific through 3 years and gotten better every year. I think if he stays his senior year, he gets even better. But kids got to make those decisions. Families make those decisions, and from a staff standpoint, there's a lot of hearsay. I mean, we laugh at the tweets and things that we hear of people talking about his stock and what will happen if he stays and don't stay. Of people that have no idea. My assistant coach, associate coach, Coach Neal, did this for 10 years in the NBA. I've been in basketball since I was in kindergarten. So we've got a pretty good idea how all this works, and our guys know how supportive we are of them. And, he's going to look at it and see, and we're gathering that information. We don't go hearsay. We actually talk to general managers within the NBA, and those guys will give the honest impression of where they think Tony or whatever other player in the country. But we're doing that for Tony now and gathering information, then it'll be a family decision from there.
Would you have him talk to Hobson?
What's that?
Would you have him talk to Darrington? Or
If he wants to. If he wants to. That's all up to Tony and the family of who he wants to talk to.
Is there a chance he could come back, though? I mean,
he has not given us any indication. He knows the rule. He's got till April 16th to make that final decision. If he hasn't made a decision, he's got to make a decision by then, one way or the other. So, as of April 16th, that's his deadline.
But you don't anticipate him coming back, or do you have a feeling?
I have no idea, man. If he comes in and tells us today that he's staying in, then he's staying in. We move on and deal with it. If it's something that he's going to take all the information to heart and look at it, then we'll find out. Hopefully, got to know by April 16th what happens before that or not. I have no idea.
Are you guys recruiting based on?
We recruit every day. We recruit every day, regardless of how many scholarships we have. We recruit every single day. So whether Tony stays or doesn't or comes back, it's not going to impact what our day-to-day operations are.
Right now, that includes the 2013 class. You are still recruiting for that.
We recruit every day. Sometimes for the 13, sometimes for the 14, sometimes for the 15.
Right now, would you say he's ready for the NBA?
That's not up to me. I'm not in the NBA. We've given our 2 cents to him and the family, the importance of making a rational, good decision. And I've always thought that. I think it's always best to stay in school unless you're an automatic first-round pick. If you're an automatic first-round pick, you're guaranteed money, and that's hard to pass up on when you look at all the other variables. If you're not a sure lock guaranteed first-round pick, I think that is a really tremendous gamble, especially in Tony's case where you're going to be a part of an outstanding team. We've won a lot of games. So his development in college and being a part of another great team is only going to help what he's already started to build in 3 years. So that's our 2 cents. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Families have got to make that decision.
Coach, now that you had a chance to sit back and look at the season and all that and how it ended and everything, what's some of your thoughts?
Well, we picked the worst day of the year to play our worst game. That was by far the worst game we played all year long, and it's unfortunate that it was in the NCAA tournament and in the second round, and Harvard took advantage of it. They shot the ball well. We had a lot of defensive breakdowns and didn't execute offensively the way we want. Didn't play anything near what we were playing over the last month. So that's frustrating because we had high hopes and high goals, just like all other Lobo fans. With that said, we had a year that hadn't happened around here, including our 30-5 season that was the winningest season 3 years ago. To win 29 games, to win 3 championships. I think that was the first champion. The Paradise Jam was the first preseason non-conference championship away from whatever it used to be called here, the Lobo Invitational. I mean, I'd love to have the Lobo Invitational back here, but we don't do that anymore. We play in exempt tournaments across the country. It's the first championship ever won in the month of November or December in program's history. We've won the last 4 league championships, and this isn't a league that is ranked 20th. We've done that where the league's been ranked anywhere from 1 to 5. So to win the last 4 championships, these young men have done incredible works. Does it taste bad right now because of the way the season? Yeah, of course. So we wanted to advance. It's not so much a Sweet 16 thing, though. I will say that. I haven't lived here for 40, 50 years. I've just been here 6 years, and we're building a program here, and I think we're building it the right way. But we've got high hopes, and I'm not just like when we came here. We were last in the league. We've won 6 league championships now total in 6 years. So our dream was never let's get to the upper echelon of the league. Let's get second, third, fourth. It was about winning championships. And when we talk about postseason and season 4 and the NCAA tournament, it's just like players. I'm not going to label them, hey, we got to get to this spot. Because then I think you take away what their potential may end up being. So we want to advance in the NCAA tournament as well. And hopefully, I'm very confident. I think that's going to happen. But unfortunately, it didn't happen this year. But it doesn't take away from what those young men accomplished.
Coach, you mentioned the strength of the league, but what isn't translating with this league in the NCAA tournament to wins?
I don't know. That's hard. If you want to look out of league, what we did out of league was phenomenal. We beat the BCS schools. You get the NCAA tournament. I've been there. I've been there now as a coach. I've been in the NCAA tournament, a part of the NCAA basketball now for 22 years. I took a Sweet 16 team from Missouri State. We beat Wisconsin and Tennessee. We weren't favored in either one of those games. We were a 12 seed. We didn't win our league. And then I've had teams like this year where we're a 3 seed, and you get upset. Georgetown is a 2 seed. Gonzaga is a number 1 seed. That's why it's March Madness. That's just it is what it is. It's a 3-week tournament, and you hope you can advance. It has a lot to do with matchups. But I said going into the tournament, you got to play well. We didn't play well. You're not going to be able to play poorly in the NCAA tournament and win. That's just and so teams that play poorly, you're going to get beat. If you don't play poorly, you get a chance to advance. And obviously, if you look at the 5 teams that we got in, we didn't play well enough individually and collectively as a league to continue to advance in the tournament.
With so much emphasis being put on that tournament, either by the media, fans, or whatever, and I'm talking about tournament overall in college basketball, how much has it devalued the regular season for a lot of coaches, a lot of programs?
It doesn't devalue us as a staff. It doesn't devalue us as a program. If that's the case, then we just should bag the first 4 months and open it up to everybody to be in. It's the body of work that gets you into the NCAA tournament. And the body of work that we've had, not just this year, but through 6 years, has been an incredible body of work. I think you can be upset, you can be frustrated, you can be down that we didn't win an NCAA tournament game, we didn't get to this level or that level, but it has absolutely no impact at all of what we did the 4 months prior to that. What these young men, you never lost 2 games in a row. How many teams did that? We won the league dominated the league tournament. Our win margin in the league tournament was much greater than what it was during the league. This was a team that was very dominant throughout the year. We just didn't perform well in the second round of the tournament.
Have you thought at all about what next year? This year you spent a lot of time, a lot of the coaches in the Mountain West did spend a lot of time kind of saying, look at us, we deserve a little more respect, we don't have teams ranked, and we're the number 1 or 2 RPI conference. Right. Do you think next year there will be more national second guessing about how good the Mountain West is?
Well, it might be. If that is, it's you're discriminating because we're not a power conference. Because what about the Pac 2 years ago? They were awful. Now, the darling of the NCAA tournament this year is the Pac. They're playing well. You got Oregon, who's a 12 seed, who, if you really look at it, Oregon probably wasn't making the tournament, which is mind-boggling to me. If they don't win their conference tournament, they're probably not in if you look at what seed they got, and now they're playing as well as anybody in the tournament. That's what happens. So, yeah, if you want to go with that logic, that's fine. It doesn't happen in the BCS leagues because the SEC is awful. The SEC has been a bad league all year, and I don't think you'll go into next year and they'll say, oh, they don't deserve to be a top 5 or 6 league team because they didn't perform well in the NCAA tournament. Now, if you do that to our league, that's fine, but you probably should do that to all the other leagues as well.
I know you said you can't quite explain why this is happening with Mountain West. Were you surprised?
Very surprised because I know how good this league was. I thought Colorado State was a great basketball team. I thought UNLV, San Diego State, ourselves, and I thought Boise was just dangerous because they could really score. Which is a dangerous team in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, obviously very surprised, and it's something we have to do. I'm not saying that it's an excuse. If we want to compete with the big boys as far as leagues go, we've got to do better in the NCAA tournament. And I'm sure that's going to be talked about in our league meetings in May. And there's not a coach that doesn't want that to happen to their respected programs and our league. But I will say our league's made incredible strides. Just in the 6 years I've been, we've made incredible strides in a lot of areas. And that next big step for us, if we really want to be, in the talk and in the mix with the power conferences in the country, our league's got to start advancing in the NCAA tournament.
You think there may have been some pressure as far as that maybe that you didn't feel, but it was just there?
I don't know. I guess you might have to ask if you're talking about our team. You might.
Just collectively, maybe.
You might have to talk. You could talk to our guys. I don't. We didn't sense it going into the game. We didn't sense it. Once arriving in Salt Lake City, we had not a lot of guys. Hughes a sophomore. He didn't have a ton of experience at that level. We just had some guys not play well. And then I didn't think we executed very well at both ends of the floor. And it is. Watching it on the tape, we had 6 losses on the year. It was without question the worst game we played all year, without question. And that's frustrating. Getting to the NCAA tournament and playing as well as we've been playing, it's hard to explain why we played so poorly. But it happened, and you congratulate Harbor. I thought they played very well, and they did. The next 2 nights later, they start 1 for 12. They weren't 1 for 12 in any stretch during our game. So it's just, it's basketball. It happens. It's unfortunate. Would I rather that happened 3 weeks prior at Nevada maybe? Yeah. But we were playing really well going into the tournament. It's just surprising we played so poorly.
Have you been surprised by the reaction?
What has to improve for next season?
I think just continue to make steps. I don't know if there's anything, major. We weren't a very good shooting team this year, but we won 29 games and a lot of championships. So when you say improving, it's hard. I mean, we're doing player evals now and going over it. I think our players just have to continue to develop, continue to get better. So it's not, I don't think there's, we're not talking about a 500 basketball team and some program that hadn't made any postseason. I mean, just dig into what we've done. I mean, it's never happened in the history of this school in a 6-year period on any level. Okay, we didn't make the Sweet 16. Well, nobody else has either. We've done things here that has not been done before. So, the changes, I don't know if we're going to change anything in our program. It's about just our players continue to get better, continue to improve, and hopefully if we're fortunate enough to get back to the NCAA tournament, we can look at the experiences that we've had over the last several years and learn from it and play better. I mean, that's about as simple as it gets.
What's Demetrius Walker's status right now?
He's no longer on the team.
Do you know his next step?
No.
Have you been surprised at all by the national media or the fan reaction to what happened last week?
No. What are you referring to?
It's been coming pretty heavy on the Lobos being a disappointment. The season was a disappointment because of the one game. Have you been
No, I
surprised by
haven't
that?
seen any of that. I haven't seen anything about our season being a disappointment. The NCAA tournament and being an upset was a disappointment. I haven't seen anything written. If you look at Georgetown, who was a 2 seed, Gonzaga was a 1 seed, we were a 3 seed. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard, especially nationally or anything here from what I've been able to see about our season being a disappointment. The NCAA tournament being a disappointment and being a 3 seed and not advancing, that's a disappointment. There's a big difference in NCAA and your season. And there's no way if you've got any kind of basketball intellect at all, where you would say we had a bad season.
There have been Wall Street Journal reports that the Mountain West was a fraud. There have been a Jim Rome several-minute stretch of
Jim Rome. We're going to go to Jim Rome?
well, you're saying you haven't seen any of the reaction. I'm telling you, there has been some national reaction.
Okay, well,
that what
Jim
what
Rome,
was-
I don't.
Okay, then throw Jim Rome out.
Wall Street Journal.
Yes,
So
there has been some reaction that what happened
Wall
this
Street
season
Journal's
was
in
overrated.
sports. They're heavy into sports.
Okay, so you don't think there's been any reaction that you've come across that
I
the
think
season
any
was overrated?
reaction that makes any sense, Jeff, that we had a bad season is ludicrous. Ludicrous. 29-6, 3 championships, things that have never been done at the history of the University of New Mexico. That's not a bad season. You lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament. That's a disappointment. The NCAA tournament was a disappointment. The season was a tremendous success. Success like this school's never experienced. Give me another season that has been more successful at UNM.
I don't know that there has been.
There hasn't.
I'm asking
There
if the
hasn't.
reaction nationally has surprised you, but you said you didn't see any, so I was
No,
explaining.
Wall Street Journal, when I think of basketball and trying to credibility I don't go to the Wall Street Journal, and I've never watched Jim Rome. So I don't really have any comments to those particular entities. If you're asking me the question, season, disappointment, NCAA disappointment, there's a difference there. NCAA, disappointment. Season, phenomenal.
And fans looking back on this season should feel what in your mind?
Should feel disappointed in our NCAA run, and feel very, very good about what our young men did for 5 months. It's never happened. I mean, there's my SID. Find me another season that was better, and I'll tell you that we had a disappointing season. If you can't do that, then I mean, we're like everybody. We want to advance, but it's not just because we're not in the Sweet 16 or we didn't win a national championship. The NCAA tournament isn't about can we get to the second round, the third round, the Sweet 16. The NCAA tournament, there's one champion. That hadn't been crowned yet. Now, when we all of a sudden just start putting all of our laurels on, oh, we have to get to the Sweet 16, or we have to get to the Elite Eight, or we have to get to the Final Four, what is that? I mean, so do we do that with our league championship? Can we win a game in the league championship? Can we beat UNLV on their home floor, which we've done for 2 years in a row? Has UNLV had disappointing season because they've lost in the first round of the tournament 4 years in a row? It's crazy. They've had 4 really good years. Just like we've had really good stretch here of years, we have not been able to get to that second week in the NCAA tournament or the third week or put ourselves in a chance to win a national tournament. We haven't done that yet. Maybe there's a step down the road that happens, but no, UNM is not Duke. UNM is not Indiana or Carolina or UCLA. That's not who we are yet. If we develop into that, I'll be the first to jump through hula hoops in great praise. But who we are is pretty doggone good.
With the contract extension, a lot of people mentioned the timing of it, and maybe the day before did you have to go through a lot?
See Paul
with that?
Krebs.
I'm asking, did you have to sign a lot of papers that day?
The negotiations went very well through my agent, and I don't know where some of these numbers are coming. I put a buyout into my contract. My buyout was like $150,000. My buyout now for the next 2 years is $1 million. So I gave a lot to stay here. I took away incentives that I'd made for 6 consecutive years. I took incentives out of my contract. I think there was a pretty big commitment, not just on the school's part, but there's a pretty good commitment on my part, especially what's out there and the opportunities that are out there to show my loyalty to UNM and how much I appreciate UNM and how much I want to continue to build this thing. So when the contract is announced, I don't think it has anything to do with it.
Coach, what will the pre-practice workouts look like?
Here in the spring, or
Yeah, I mean, just,
we give our guys about 3 weeks off. So the dead period in recruiting starts around the 15th. So once the dead period starts, we'll probably start individual workouts. The spring is really short because by rule, once the week before finals, you're not allowed to do anything. So it's basically the 1st of May. So we've only got them for about 2 weeks. And so that spring term is really short. They'll get some time off. They'll come back for summer school session in June. And we'll work them the summer session in June. Probably give them most of July off and bring them back the end of July because we have the foreign trip to Australia. And we're allowed 10 practices before that. So we'll probably give them July off, which they haven't had. So it's a busy summer, but that August trip will really help because we got a lot of guys obviously returning.
Are there any expectations you can tell fans they can expect from next season?
We're going to put a great product out, and we're going to try to win as many games as we possibly can. I mean, what do you want to get? Promise a national championship? I mean, I don't know what you're asking. I mean, we don't make promises. I haven't made promises since I've been here. My only promise to fans, administration, or anything else is that we will put a product out there that's very representative of our university, and we will play hard, we'll play unselfish, and we're going to be battling for championships. And I don't know of a year yet where that hadn't taken place. There has been if you just look at our league, there hasn't been a league school more successful than we've been. We've won more championships than anybody. We've won 2 league tournaments now. I mean, The expectations are the same in our locker room. We're going to show up every day at work and try to get better. And whoever our next opponent is, we're going to try to beat. And our guys have done an awfully good job at doing those things.
There was some talk with Kendall before the game that he didn't come out with the team in the first warm-ups and stuff like that. Obviously had a bad game. Was he under the weather? Anything going on with him?
No, he didn't come out for warm-ups.
But I saw a report that he didn't come out for the first team's warm-ups.
Jim Rome report? I don't know what report that was, but I was in the locker room, as I am all the time, and nobody was in that locker room with me other than Coach Neal. So unless he went out and got concessions, I've got to assume that he was on the floor warming up.
Chili fries.
Anything else?
Coach, with Chad and Jamal gone, and now with Demetrius also gone, how do you?
Did you think Jamal and Chad would win 109 games?
I
They got hit
have
4
no
years
idea.
ago. 109 games. Both going to get their degree, and they won 109 Lobo basketball games. It's a pretty good career.
So I guess my question is, where do you guys as a staff? How do you replace? Not necessarily replace them.
Well, it's not easy. You know, this year's team. I mean, obviously we were picked to win the national tournament, going into the tournament, obviously. But before the season, we weren't even picked to finish third in our own league, and because we lost Drew Gordon, Philip McDonald, and A.J. Hardeman. Two of those guys were the winningest Lobos of all time, and Drew Gordon was an outstanding player. So we had to replace that. That's part of college basketball. You've got to be able to replace and move and keep it moving forward, and I think that's another key to our program. We haven't had any valleys. We haven't had any dips in our seasons. We've continued to play at a championship level for 6 straight years, and only one of those years did it come down. I think it was our 3rd year. The year Drew became eligible at midterm, the 4th year, was the only year in 6 that with a week to go, we weren't fighting for a league championship. I don't know if there's another team in our league that can say that. So that's our goal again next year. We want to continue to try to get better. We got another great schedule we're putting together. We're in another great ESPN Classic in Charleston with some great teams. We got Kansas on the schedule. There's a lot of good things that we're looking forward to. But you got an incoming class that's going to have to do well, and these veterans are going to have to continue to get better. That's the sophomore class has got to get better. The junior class has got to get better, because Chad and Jamal meant an awful lot to our program. Not just this year, but through their 4 years. They did a lot of good things.
How does that incoming class help this basketball team?
Well, I hope it helps a lot. Obach gives us great size. He's a 7-footer. Can really run the floor. We were missing a 3rd big, so that gives us a lot. It's not really in the whole class as well. You got Merv Lindsay was sitting out. Devin Williams was redshirting. So those 2 become eligible. That really helps with what we're doing. Timmy Miles gives us another athletic kid, another athletic big that can come in and develop nice and slowly. And Bryce, I think, is going to help us in the backcourt in a vast number of ways. He's got great IQ. He's very athletic. He can shoot the basketball, which this team, if we had an Achilles heel this year, it was shooting the basketball. So, hopefully that all these guys can add to it, and then guys that were here for this season get better. Their weaknesses become strengths. I think you saw that this year. We were without Alex Kirk. He had a phenomenal year after sitting out a year. Cam Bairstow, with what he's been able to do, he's developed parts of his game. He was a 55% foul shooter a year ago. This year, for most of the season, he was right around 80 until late in the year. So, you just want these guys to continue to grow and develop, and I think that's always been a key to the success of our program.
Coach,
Do you have a
when
time-
make your final decision on Demetrius, and can you talk about how, if you're disappointed that it didn't work out?
You're always disappointed. When things don't work out for your student athletes, you're always disappointed. But it's a program decision. We wish him well, and we'll help him anything we can, but it just can't be here at UNM.
Do you have a timeline on when you might finalize the next year's schedule?
We're working hard on that. It's a never-ending deal. We've got about 4 or 5 games still yet to schedule. So it's just a hard piece, because now our league jumps again. Our league jumps to an 18-game schedule. So when you jump from 2 years ago when we played 14, now we play 16 this year, now we're playing 18. That's what I think is hard for fans to understand, the scheduling aspect, because you're dealing with home and homes. Anytime you put a home and home on the schedule, it affects the next year. For instance, we play Cincinnati last year at Cincinnati. Now this year they're going to play us at home. Well, when your league jumps like that from total games you're playing in the league, that affects you. This will be, I know we won't play any more than 16 home games. So it will be, I think, our 5th straight year of playing 16 home games, which, again, if you go back and look at the history of UNM basketball, if you just look at, if you want to look at coaching eras, most coaching eras you're around 20 home games. I would venture to say every coaching era, with maybe the exception of Richie McKay, was home games 20 a year, and ours is 16. So that means what we've been able to do, we're basically doing it for the vast majority of it, we're doing it away from home. And that, again, speaks to what these young men have done.
And just to clarify, to get to 31 games, you guys do have to schedule
We
someone
have
in
to
that
schedule
Charleston.
somebody in that Charleston group, which
That-
is, has that been released yet? Those teams been,
6 of the 8
Just
have.
6 of the 8.
yeah, which is a really good field, and we're working very hard at trying to, the field is so good, we're probably not gonna be in a bye situation like we were this year with Mercer. It's probably gonna be a home and home situation where we get one of those teams to play us at home, and then next year we gotta go play 3rd place. But again, that affects scheduling.
Sean Miller says he's interested in New Mexico and Arizona.
We'd be ecstatic. If that is true, we would be ecstatic about talking about a home and home with Arizona. Now, I've been here 6 years. It's the first I've heard of that. So we would be ecstatic if they would be interested in a home and home with us.
Real quick,
We would jump on it.
Real quick, you've been critical of the TV contract over the years. How do you feel about
It's
it now?
outstanding. It's outstanding. We got CBS Sports tied with ESPN. We got a chance now to get ESPN back in this building, which is huge. I mean, anytime you can have entities like that, especially when it's college basketball, it's big. I thought this year was really good. We got sprinkling of the ESPN, but I thought the things we were able to do with CBS Sports and NBC Sports, we got a lot of good coverage, much better than in years past. So I think this contract, I haven't seen all the ins and outs of it, so I might be speaking way out of line, but everything that I've been privy to, and we'll get more information on that. I think the end of April, 1st of May is our spring meetings in Phoenix. We'll get all the details on the contract, but it at least allows us to have the late night games back in the pit, have national coverage that I think we haven't had other than this year. I thought this year was the most national coverage that we've had in my tenure here, and hopefully moving forward that's going to continue.
Are one of those 4 or 5 remaining games going to be Midnight Madness? When do you know that?
You mean like the game we had with Davidson?
Yeah.
We have reached out to the ESPN Marathon people, but we've not heard back if we even have the opportunity to be in on it. That's an invite only, and we were invited to do that last year. We have not received that invite yet this year.
Coach, you had Arizona State, Texas Tech on the schedule recently. Are there any plans of bringing them or any other regional teams back on the schedule?
Well, we've played Texas Tech. I think over a 4-year, they dropped us. We played Arizona State. They dropped us. Didn't want to reschedule. We've played California. We've played USC. USC goes back on the schedule not this year, but next year. USC goes back on the schedule the following year. So, we've not told any of those power conferences, we've yet to tell them no. And now when I say that, if you're lower level power conference, that doesn't do a whole lot for our RPI. We played 5 of them 2 years ago, and it killed our RPI. So playing like a Davidson, playing, kind of people laughed about it, but playing South Dakota State, those 2 games were much better for us than what it was 2 years ago playing Boston College and Arizona State. So it's really about who you are and where your RPI and what team you're coming back. Those are things that we really look at in scheduling. It doesn't always work out that way. I'll be honest with you, it's hard. So it doesn't always work out that way. But we're trying to schedule teams that are going to have RPIs that are 150 or better, minimum 200 or better.
So a lot of the fans were happy, like with Valpo, for instance, being a high mid-major.
Very good game.
Is there any possibility of getting like a Butler or a Wichita State?
Wichita State they're one of the teams that we're currently talking to because they reached out to us. A very good Valley team. I think when you look at the Valley, you see Wichita, now Creighton's leaving the Valley. But those are 2 regional teams that have been outstanding. So those would be 2 teams that we obviously look at and talk with.
Does the ESPN contract make it easier to
Helps.
Does it help set up more games like the Kansas City game?
Very much so. Very much. And I think you'll see even things like in Vegas, one game shots in Vegas, and when we go to selling us now, we can. That was a big pull with Cincinnati. Was our contract with the Mountain was over, and we were able to get in that home and home, knowing that, hey, we'll be on ESPN at your place, you'll be on ESPN at our place, and that's a big selling point. And so it definitely helps open up some things in scheduling that maybe were a little bit more difficult in years past.
Steve, what's Banyan's role next year?
Just get better. He's no different than any of those guys. It's too hard in April, I guess we're still in March, to do roles. We got to see how our program's always been great about developing guys in the summer. So the work that they put on, Cam's role, if you would have asked me last April, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that Cam's role ended up being the way it was. He worked and earned that. And so Nick and all the other guys, that's what you do. From April to October, you work to kind of help your role. If you didn't like your role the year before, do something about that. And guys that do that in the summer always do a better job of increasing their role once the winter starts.
Reminder, guys, head over to baseball for the press conference.
Okay, thank you.
Think about the schedule. The only games we have scheduled